sketch the graph of each quadratic function. Whenever you want the graph, you are going to need the vertex and one other point. So when I ask you to sketch a graph, your vertex has to be labeled and one other point. Sometimes that means you're going to use your a value, right? Because what do we know about this equation with the minus 2 in there? You know that you would go over 1 down 2. But if your vertex is already not very nice fractions, sometimes it's not nice to go down 2 from a not nice fraction to a new not nice fraction. So a point that is often like, we have the general form. I know that it goes down. The only thing the general form basically tells us, if we go back to our diagram, right? General form can tell me opens up and down quickly. It can tell me my y-intercept quickly. And if we need 2 points, does it make sense that, well, why don't we use our y-intercept? If I plug in 0, I'm going to get minus 14. I've already got my 1 point. If I find my vertex, then I'm going to be done. Now, according to the diagram, we can get to the vertex either through the standard form, which is what I would always recommend, because that's why I put that highlighted arrow there, or the factored form, which I wouldn't recommend because it has that sometimes arrow. And I was explaining to the other class that this happens to me after badminton practice. After badminton practice, I need to come back to my room to put all the stuff away. There's 2 ways to get back to my room. I can go up the stairs and come to my room, or I could take the elevator. But I don't know if any of you have been here later in the evening. The up the stairs is a sometimes. Have you ever had a practice? You need to come back upstairs, and you climb all the way up to the stairs, and what do you find out?
Doors are locked.
The doors are locked. And you're like, oh, this method didn't work. And then I have to go all the way back down the stairs and go to the elevator to get to the second. So the elevator always works, but sometimes I'm like, ooh, I should take the normal way that I do all day. But it doesn't work. So the factored form is that. Sometimes it doesn't work. So in that case, the standard form will always work to find your vertex. But maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, let's try. So standard form, what would we do first? We factor out the negative 2. Leave the minus 14. Take the negative 2 out of that. It'll be x squared. Negative out of a positive will be negative. And it'll be 5x. Ooh, so standard form already. You see it's going to have fractions. But it won't be too bad. You're going to get really good at your fraction work. Complete the square. If it's a minus 5, this has to be minus 5 over 2. It's always cut in half. That's not too hard. And if it's a minus 5 over 2, if that gets squared, that would be a plus 25 over 4. We need to compensate. But before we just subtract 25 over 4 there, we should think, what have we actually done? We have actually subtracted, if I multiply by 2, the 2 and the 4 would simplify. We've actually subtracted 25 over 2. So to compensate, I need to add 25 over 2. Negative 14 is 28 over 2. So this will leave me with negative 3 over 2. And I now know my vertex is negative 5 over 2, comma, plus 5 over 2, comma, negative 3 over 2. So if we go to graph this now, I know that it's opening down. I know that I have a y-intercept. There it is, all the way down at 0, negative 14. My vertex is at 2.5, negative 5 over 2 is 2.5, negative 3, or sorry, plus 5 over 2 is 2.5, negative 1.5. So I have that second point, I can just draw a parabola through that point. That's going to be enough to get full marks for your graph. You have your vertex labeled and one other point. Can you see that the going over 1 down 2 is a little bit awkward here because of the fraction? It's not impossible, but it's a little bit awkward. So that y-intercept is a lot nicer. Now, let's try method 2. Factored form. So first of all, can I factor out a negative 2 out of each of the terms? I can. X squared minus 5x plus 7. This is the doors are locked. You can't use this method. We tried. We ran into locked doors. Can't be factored. That method stuck. So there's no way to do any of the black arrows in this question. Unless I could still cheat and do them a little bit. You could use quadratic formula, but then you'd need a calculator. And it wouldn't be the nicest. Okay, so for this one for sure, standard form is the best. Let's look at the second one. Oh, that was a button to push that freezes your screen. There it is. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Perfect. So again, we'll try both. But I'm going to do the standard form first because that would be recommended. First of all, can we find the y-intercept? Absolutely. We know that it opens up. We know our y-intercept is a 0, 5. So all we need to find is our vertex. But we'll try the factored form as well. And I think you'll see that even if the factored form works, for graphing, for finding the vertex, you're going to like the standard form, even if it involves fractions. So, start. Factor out the 4, keep the 5. 4 out of that will be x squared. 4 taken out of 12 would be plus 3x. Leave a space, leave a space. Do we have fractions? Yes, we do. Half of 3 would be 3 over 2. I like better to leave it as 3 over 2 than it is to change it to 1.5 because when you square it, that's going to be 9 over 4. What have we actually done? When I multiply that by 4, I've actually added 9. So to compensate, I need to subtract 9. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Yeah, that wasn't too bad to find our vertex. Negative 3 over 2, comma, negative 4. We knew that our y-intercept was at 0, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Label that one. And my vertex is at negative 3 over 2, negative 4. And I draw a parabola, and I'm done. This is perfect, full marks. Okay. Now we're going to look at factored form to see if it was even possible. There isn't a common factor. But maybe we could factor this anyways, even though we can't factor out a common factor. Problem with factoring is the first number is a 4, which gives you options, 4 and 1 or 2 and 2 for the first one. But the last number is a 5. I would actually, if I was factoring this in my head, start with 5. Well, I am factoring it in my head. I would start with the 5 and the 1, because that's the only option. And then when I'm checking, should it be 4 and 1 or 2 and 2?
2 and 2.
See how much easier it is to see your outside and inside once you put the 5 and the 1 there. Now my outside is 2, my inside is 10. That makes 12. I need positive 12, so they both have to be positive. Does everything still work? It does. So now if I put 0 in for y, I can find my x-intercepts. They will be at negative 5 over 2 and negative 1 over 2. So I can go to my graph in purple here. And I can label those points. Negative 5 over 2 and 1 over 2. And I would know that my axis of symmetry would have to be right in between them. So I would add those up and divide by 2. This will be negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. Top simplifies to negative 3. I get negative 3 over 2 for my axis of symmetry. Look at that. That matches up with completing the square. Then I need to find my y-coordinate. So if I wanted to find my y-coordinate from the factored form, I have 2 times negative 3 over 2, because my x-coordinate I know, plus 5. And 2 times negative 3 over 2 plus 1. Those 2's will cancel, negative 3 plus 5. First set of brackets will simplify to 2. These 2's will cancel, negative 3 plus 1. Second set of brackets simplifies to negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. That matches up. So even though the factored form works, let's zoom out so we can see everything we've done. Even though the factored form did work, I probably still would recommend the standard form for finding the vertex. Still think that's easier. So that's why at the beginning, when I highlighted what's the easiest way to get to the vertex, I think this green arrow is almost always the easiest. If you have to find the x-intercepts, then it's sort of like, well, and I have to find the x, then sometimes this might be better. Because if you have to find the x-intercepts, you do have to go to the black circle and down. But otherwise, if it's just graphing, use your standard form every single time. And you need one other point. Well, use your y-intercept. That's super easy to find every single time. All right, questions for practice on these ones are 6